For those who have been listening or watching my podcast recently on YouTube, you might have noticed that the last couple of episodes have received about 50 to 200 anti Semitic comments, generally surrounding something about Israel's genocide or free Palestine or yada, 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 why Jews are bad. In a second, I actually created a slideshow and I want to take you on some of the greatest hits of anti-Semitic comments that I've gotten at least in the last 2 weeks. But I actually want to talk about a theory that I've been coming up with as to where these comments are coming from. I spent a lot of time both digging on the internet and also talking to people that are AI and social media experts. And I've come to the theory that there are hundreds of thousands, if not potentially even millions, of bots in the form of fake YouTube accounts. By the way, the same thing is almost certainly true for other platforms like Twitter/X, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, but millions of bots that are being programmed to fixate on keywords, probably hashtags or things in the title, and then go in and automatically comment things to give some political disposition, in this case, for anti-Semitism. So it's been well documented over the last couple of years, the fact that countries like China, Russia, Iran, India, Qatar just have this vested interest in sowing propaganda and misinformation. In the case of some countries like Iran and Qatar, this obviously has a political bias in terms of inspiring people to become anti-Israel and by extension anti-America. In the case of India, it's really just to create accounts really on both sides of the political spectrum to try to increase clicks and visibility, because obviously if there's one thing we know from social media, the more visibility and clicks you get, the more you can monetize and fund that. I was actually told a story of a friend of mine whose father over COVID was running a YouTube account and tried an experiment that in order to increase views of the YouTube account, he created an algorithm that created thousands of bots that would automatically like and comment on the video within the first 24 hours. And before YouTube eventually turned that down, he was getting tens, if not hundreds of thousands of views on those YouTube videos. So we know that bots are a major issue in general on platforms like YouTube. And I want to take you on a little bit of a journey here. So I'm going to do something I don't normally do. And I'm going to share my screen here. And let's go through a little bit of a slideshow. We can kind of talk about some of these comments and where this comes from. Now, this one's interesting because this first comment was on a podcast that had nothing to do with Israel or Palestine or the war or Zionism. This was on a conversation I did with Zevi Slavin about Jewish mysticism and Kabbalah. Was a fascinating conversation if you're interested in Jewish mysticism or Kabbalah. But obviously, that is not the type of podcast that grants a comment, and I'll read it for just people who are listening. The world has woken up. No one is buying this anymore. Stop embarrassing yourselves. Actually, don't stop. It's hilarious. And then in all caps, free Palestine. Now, again, this was not on a video called Why I Am a Zionist or on a video Why I Am Pro-Israel. This is on a video that was about the inherent tensions that are implicit within both Kabbalah/mysticism and halacha/the Jewish legal tradition. Again, very far cry from anything having to do with Israel and Zionism. Again, this obviously goes into the wider thesis that it's increasingly difficult, if not impossible, to connect anti-Zionism from anti-Semitism. Again, for somebody to comment this on a video about Jewish mysticism just highlights the fact that this is all really just anti-Semitism. But then I'll actually fast forward a bit because I clicked on this guy's profile. For those, again, listening, his name is Dome Cap Colonizer. I'm going to guess that Dome Cap is the kippot and colonizer. So this guy is a Jew colonizer or something like that. And as you can see, he has 0 subscribers. He joined November 24th, 2024. I tried to look into whether or not he was commenting on anything else. And all I found once I searched his name is that he had very similar comments on other Jewish YouTube channels and everything like that. I'm going to guess this is a bot. I'm going to guess that there is not some dude sitting there, I don't know, in some basement in Boston somewhere who decided to name himself the Dome Cap Colonizer that spends his entire day going around to YouTube channels of things remotely connected to Israel and commenting things like free Palestine. But let's go through some of these other comments. And, one of the interesting things that I've noticed is when actually clicking on a lot of these profiles, it's the exact same type of thing as our friend Dome Cap Colonizer over here. It's just very new accounts, usually created in the last year or two, which again highlights my suspicion that there's a lot of AI implicit here because, again, it's very easy to create an algorithm that just runs through YouTube videos, goes through hashtags, anything that does hashtag Israel, hashtag Zionism, hashtag Jewish, hashtag Jew, right? You can come up with other keywords for yourself and just comment some, mishmash of things. Heck, if you even want to be a little bit more advanced, there are tools. I've actually used these type of tools before that can take, say, a 40-minute YouTube video, put that in a algorithm that converts it to text, then run that text through an AI-like thing and actually comment as if that person, quote unquote, AI, but masquerading as a person, has actually listened to that entire video, that is coming up with a response to something that was spoken about in the video. But again, it's all AI. All it takes is a quick voice to text system. Those exist, and AI systems, which, many of the people here, I think, are students. So, the same type of way that you don't maybe not do all the readings for your classes, right? People that are doing this exact same thing on YouTube. Let's look at some other comments. The spawns of Spartans being victims. This was in a comment that this is a podcast that I did. This is with Andrew Pessin about anti-Semitism on campus. And then in increasing lower caps and all caps, shocking LMFAO, goofy rats, right? That's how we ended it up with, right? And for those watching, if you're listening to this one, this podcast, you might want to hop over to my YouTube channel, Rabbi Daniel Levine, and just so you can see some of these comments. The name of the person who commented this, is full with some expletives, so I will not read it out on the podcast here. But I'm going to guess this is not a real person. Somebody else commented, "Stop pretending your racism is Judaism." The list goes on. Dusty Gee 5294 wrote, "F Israel, America hates you now." And then an emoji of a guy with sunglasses and an American flag. And then somebody else just simply commented, "Nasty J." I'm going to guess he is not talking about my jumper in basketball, but he's talking about Nasty J for Nasty Jew. And again, maybe some of these are real people. I sort of feel bad for the, if they are real people, I kind of feel bad for real people sitting around, looking around for anything having to do with Judaism and Israel and then commenting anti-Semitic things like this. This obviously could also be a network of people, right? So I'm sure that there are group chats or WhatsApp groups that exist of just thousands of anti-Semites, and, every once in a while somebody will drop in a social media post or a YouTube video and everybody will come in and comment something, anti-Semitic / anti-Israel. But if you're going to do that, you would probably make it a little bit more scholarly or erudite than just writing Nasty J on somebody's podcast, which again, you can be the judge for yourself. I'm actually curious, you can write in the comments whether or not you think these are bots or not. But as I've been getting more and more of these comments on different YouTube channel videos of mine, I've just been trying to figure out, what the heck is actually going on here. Just to go to some other ones, this person whose screen name, I believe this is Russian, somebody could correct me on that, commented, "Thanks to Israeli propaganda, anti-Semitism has become a laughingstock. It is no longer taken seriously." Now, this one's interesting because it's written with such precise grammar, right? There's correct commas. Anti-Semitism is both hyphenated and capitalized correctly, that I'm going to guess this is just pure AI and ChatGPT, especially because the name is not an American name, right? It's some, I don't speak or read Russian, but it's some Russian name here. So again, this just seems like somebody ran my conversation through AI and said, respond in a way that is, anti-Israel / anti-Semitic. Some other ones, "Zionist immigrant terrorists occupying Palestine ought to be proscribed under international law." Another one, "It's not anti-Semitic to be against genocide." I'm getting a lot of those lately on conversations that actually have, very little to do with Israel or anything like that. And even when I am talking about the anti-Zionism overlap with anti-Semitism, it is definitely not people simply just saying they are against genocide. These are people who are either explicitly making anti-Semitic claims about places like Israel or groups like Zionists, or actually going out and carrying out actions such as the shooting that we saw in DC about a month and a half ago. And these are the type of comments that I'm getting on those types of videos. Some more, I did another video that I called Anti-Semitism on Campus Explained, and then Gia Comel commented explained, but he spelled explained wrong. He spelled it EXPLEINED. I guess he never learned the I after E except after C. I think I got that right. But he said explained, again, spelled wrong. It does not exist, right? So I guess anti-Semitism, according to Gia Comel, whose account is 2 months old, anti-Semitism does not exist. And, just some other comments. Somebody commented, Lamo, LMAO, Mossad pay you 4 shekels per vid, question mark, right? I actually couldn't help myself, so I responded to his comment and I said, only 4, this episode must have be worth at least 10 shekels, right? I just, sometimes I like to have some fun with the, anti-Semitic comments. But this is actually another really interesting anti-Semitic thing that I've heard lately. And I've talked to a lot of people that are involved in the Jewish/pro-Israel space. And, many of their videos and comments that they get are full of insinuation that they are being paid off in some way by the Israeli government. Again, total garbage, total anti-Semitism there. At least here I was able to have some fun and play around with this just a little bit more. I think I have 1 or 2 more slides, but there were a lot more to choose from. There were quite literally hundreds. These were just, some of the random ones I took pictures of this morning. Alex Richardson writes, didn't know Satan Yahoo was dictator in deciding who and what is considered anti and self-hating. We get another comment saying this is the equivalent of Southern slave owners crying about anti-white racism in 1840. And so I guess that they're, anti-Semitism, according to this guy, Ilram Ramim 9269, anti-Semitism does not exist, according to him. And then somebody else says it's not anti-Semitism to criticize the Israeli government, then a space, then an exclamation point. This person clearly did not listen to the podcast, because every time the Israeli government comes up in many of my podcasts, I do specifically criticize the Israeli government. Let's just do a couple more. I get this often. Somebody commented, what is your thoughts on genocide taking place in Gaza? These type of comments come on, again, topics that have nothing to do with Israel, right? I can talk about the history of Jewish law and halacha or medieval Jewish philosophy, and people will just be very interested in knowing my thoughts on the genocide taking place in Gaza. Somebody else that just said, Christ is king, that's the response. I'm not really sure how that will help solve anti-Semitism. Maybe I'm a bit lacking, but if Felix Lamana, who wrote this comment, can tell me how exactly accepting Christ as king will solve anti-Semitism, I am all ears for solutions to solve anti-Semitism. Somebody else just wrote, Candace Owens and Tucker, right, talking about Tucker Carlson, very smart, right? Again, not correct grammar. Then on the bottom, Free Palestine. Last slide here. How do you all justify the murder of thousands of children in Gaza? Somebody else wrote, have you noticed the genocide in Gaza? And somebody else wrote, as these 2 racist Z's waffle, they have not a drop of compassion for those they dehumanize and starve. Waffling about anti-Semitism jokers. I only know what the word waffle means because I work with students and many of them have been using the term lately. I think the term racist Z's is kind of catchy. If I was ever going to start a band, maybe I would call it the racist Z's. But no, on a more serious note, again, this is just a pure anti-Semitism. We were not talking about Palestinians in Gaza at all. We were talking about anti-Semitism, and so, again, just the type of episodes that I do that get, these comments over and over again. I said that was the last slide, but let's do just one more. Because I think, hopefully you'll find this somewhat interesting, if not troubling. Somebody else wrote, Zionists are not Semites, period. They are primarily Caucasian Europeans. Conflating the two is pure bullshit hasbara, right? This is the infamous and long dispelled theory that Ashkenazi Jews are not actually Jewish. They are part of this, the Khazars, where this group of people who mass converted about 11 or 1200 years ago. I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's name. I think it's Pancho Vanilla Bean 8074. But somebody should probably tell Mr. or maybe it's Mrs. Pancho Vanilla Bean that the vast majority of Zionists/Israelis right now are not actually even Ashkenazi. So even if you do accept the completely wrong and faulty theory that Ashkenazi Jews are not quote unquote ethnically descended from the land of Israel, again, a theory that is long been dispelled as wrong, it would be helpful for him to meet the vast majority of Israelis that are from the Middle East. And so this idea that Zionists are not Semites / Zionists are not the real Jews, right? This is, again, a long line of anti-Semitism, right? I believe this started off with Christianity, with supersessionism, this idea that the Jews are no longer the real Jews, right? You see this with groups like the Black Hebrew Israelites, and much of the pro-Palestinian movement has actually borrowed from this type of anti-Semitism when they say Palestinians are the real indigenous people to this land, right? That's just historically inaccurate, right? Jews are obviously the indigenous people, but one type of anti-Semitism that we've seen, again, from both Christians, from a lot of the anti-Israel movement, from Mrs. Pancho Vanilla Bean 8074 on YouTube, where there's this type of way to say, well, the real, Jews aren't the real Jews. The real Jews are something else. Just some other comments. Zionism is an ethno-supremacist ideology. That's right-wing. You are not a victim. Somebody else says, next week, right? They're sort of making the joke that I'm going to host a conversation. Is anti-Nazi Germany worse on the right or the left? And he says, can't make this shit up. Complete dissonance to objective reality, which is Israel, the fascist, Jewish, supremacist, Nazi state committing genocide in Gaza in the name of Zionism, right? That is a lot of words in general. And just to finish it off with a little bit of a lighthearted one, somebody just commented, Mort from Family Guy, which I will be lying if I told you that I did not crack up when I saw this. Again, still anti-Semitic. It's bad. But at least if you're going to be somewhat anti-Semitic, you should at least try to make it a little bit funny. Just to finish off, I want to give a little bit of a, sort of half experiment, half challenge. If you are not a bot and you are the type of person that is inclined to comment something anti-Semitic or anti-Israel here, one, sort of go-to question I have for anybody that is an anti-Zionist is just to make sure we're on the same historical page, is I would say, do you believe that Jews lived in the land of Israel for at least 1,000 years, right? Well, I know the question of are Jews indigenous, right? It depends how you define indigenous, but, say the year, 200 BCE. Were there Jews or the precursor to Jews, aka the Israelites or Judeans, whatever word you want to use, were they living in the land of Israel? If many of the comments on this are just the same mishmash anti-Zionism / anti-Semitic generic comments I've gotten, I'm going to assume it's a bot. If you're not a bot and you're actually listening to this and you're inclined to comment something like Free Palestine, comment Free Palestine, but then answer this specific question. What do you make of the fact that were there Jews living in the land of Judea / Israel / Palestine / Canaan? Use your favorite word for it in the year 200 BCE. For everybody else, I hope you like and subscribe, and also leave comments that are a little bit more friendly than the ones that we just went through.